Hey tech heads, Fina here. Today we're going to be looking at Volvo's EV selection, the EX30 SUV and the XC40 Recharge. Both of these models are part of Volvo's push for a greener future, but they differ in a few key ways. Maybe you can already guess what the main one is. But let's go find out together. So, since you're tech heads, let's start off pretty technical and take a look at the platform. So the Volvo XC40 uses the Geely Compact Module Architecture, or CMA, which was introduced in 2017 and jointly developed with Volvo Cars at CEVT in Gothenburg, Sweden. The highly flexible and scalable CMA architecture for small and mid-sized cars integrates advanced European R&D concepts with cutting-edge technologies from around the world. It is fully scalable and accommodates a wide range of propulsion systems from ICE to pure electric. But I'd say that is also its biggest drawback. The platform wasn't developed purely for EVs, so the XC40 doesn't have a flat floor in the back, and there's a tunnel in the middle that its combustion brethren need to route the exhaust, which I think is a bit of a shame, isn't it? I'm so glad we don't have to deal with and service the exhaust, catalytic converter, tailpipe, and other unnecessary things in an EV. So the XC40 shares a CMA with the Polestar 2 and Lynk & Co. 01, for example. The Volvo EX30 is a different story. It uses the new purely electric sustainable experience architecture, specifically SEA2, which was introduced to the public in 2020. So it has a beautifully flat floor and no unnecessary tunnel in the back. Geely, which describes the SEA platform as open source, is also keen to supply the platform to other automakers in Europe, for example, a Polish electric car maker called Electromobility Poland. They're pretty new. So how about you? Do you think it matters what platform your new car uses? Let me know in the comments if the SEA2 is the obvious choice, or would you still give a chance to the older but versatile CMA? Next, let's look at performance and dynamics. So I think it's interesting to compare the base versions, which have similar battery packs. So I'll be taking a look at the Volvo EX30 single motor extended range and the XC40 Recharge single motor. Now the Volvo EX30 is much smaller and lighter, and it uses a more powerful motor, so it easily wins in terms of dynamic parameters. I will say I typically drive fairly calmly, so this is not the only deciding factor for me, but it's always good to know. So let's take a look. Starting with weight, with a 69 kilowatt hour gross battery capacity, the smaller EX30 weighs 1900 kilograms and the XC40 Recharge 2034 kilograms. Now the motor has a nice 200 kilowatts of power in the EX30 and a still adequate 175 kilowatts in the XC40 Recharge. Both cars are rear-wheel drive and have a rear motor, so thank goodness for that. I think that is excellent, and that's the way it should be, in an EV at least. The EX30 pulls off 0 to 60 miles per hour in just 5.1 seconds, and the XC40 Recharge in 7.2 seconds. So I would say those are both pretty good times. Top speed is electronically limited to 180 miles per hour, but you can only drive that fast on a German motorway anyway, and I don't think I'll be taking these SUVs on the circuit anytime soon, so I think that's just fine. For me, it's definitely thumbs up for both of these for great dynamic parameters, even in the basic version. Both the EX30 single motor extended range and the XC40 Recharge single motor use a lithium-ion NMC battery with a gross capacity of 69 kilowatt hours. However, the usable capacity varies. So the EX30 has a usable capacity of 64 kilowatt hours, while the XC40 has 66 kilowatt hours. So unfortunately, I haven't been able to find any more information on why this is the case, but if any of you guys know, please let me know in the comments. The official WLTP range is stated as 480 kilometers or 298 miles for the EX30, and 467 kilometers or 263 miles for the XC40. I prefer to use the real range from the EV database, so that's going to be 305 kilometers or 230 miles for the EX30 and 305 kilometers or 190 miles for the XC40 Recharge. Now, those are completely different values, aren't they? Of course, they will vary in summer versus winter, city versus highway, all of that stuff, but I don't need to explain that to you guys. And I'll post a summary table here for you so you can take a look for yourself. But what do you think? Are you surprised by how much less range the XC40 Recharge has? You might not be so surprised when I tell you that the drag coefficient CD for the Volvo XC40 Recharge is 0.329, but for the EX30 it's only 0.28, which considering the body shape is a very good figure. Just to give you a comparison, the queen of aerodynamics, the Tesla Model 3, has an unbelievable 0.219. Both the XC40 Recharge and the EX30 have a charging port on the rear left and a standard 11 kilowatt three-phase AC onboard charger. But you can upgrade the EX30 to an amazing 22 kilowatt version. I would so want that in my car because with 22 kilowatts AC, you can charge from 0 to 100% in just 3.5 hours. Plus, nobody drives all the way to 0 anyway, so realistically, you will charge up much sooner and at a much better price than the expensive DC charging. Speaking of DC charging, that is also very solid for both Volvos. The older XC40 Recharge has a maximum DC charging power of a beautiful 136 kilowatts and 10 to 80% charge in 34 minutes. The EX30 has a top 153 kilowatts and 10 to 80% charge in just 28 minutes. So what do you say? Would you want a 22 kilowatt AC onboard charger in your car too? Or would you not really use it? Share your thoughts in the comments and let me know how AC charging works in your country. Now, before we get into the boring yet important dimensions, I have something a little more interesting for you, and that is the front trunk or the frunk. So you say to yourself, both cars have different platforms. The frunk might not be so straightforward. But surprise, both Volvos do have a front boot. The XC40 Recharge has a larger 31-liter frunk, and the EX30 has a modest, but still cable-friendly 7-liter frunk. So my stipulation is that if an EV doesn't have a frunk, I would like at least a double boot floor because I'm really not a fan of having a trunk full of stuff just flying around. So that's a big thumbs up for me for both Volvos. Next, let's get into those dimensions. So in terms of length, the EX30 will be 4,233 millimeters, versus 4,444 millimeters in the XC40. That's going to be a difference of 207 millimeters in terms of length. As far as width goes, the EX30 is 1,837 millimeters versus 1,863 millimeters for the XC40. So 26 millimeter difference. As far as height goes, the EX30 is going to be 1,549 millimeters and the XC40 is going to be 1,647 millimeters high. So it's a difference of 98 millimeters, with the XC40 being a little bit taller. What about the luggage compartment? Or the trunk, or the boot, or the sleeping space if you're on a long road trip? So in the EX30, it's going to be 318 liters, compared with the XC40, which is 452 liters, so 134 liter difference. Now, I wonder if it's been clarified whether that 318 liters in the EX30 includes that space under the floor. Has anyone actually measured it yet? If you know the answer, please let me know in the comments because this has been plaguing me since that last video I made about the EX30. Next, let's check out the infotainment. So the EX30 offers a minimalist interior dominated by a large vertical infotainment display with Android Automotive, while the XC40 has a more traditional layout with more physical buttons. And it's also not missing the large 12-inch display in front of the driver. So I think that gives some points to the XC40. The driver display is nice and the EX30 just doesn't have it. Now the XC40's main display is only 9 inches compared to the EX30's 12.3, and it does give an outdated impression, especially for those of us who are spoiled by modern infotainment. But then again, that display in front of the driver. Now the EX30's infotainment is quite the opposite of the XC40's. It's modern, it's very fast, fully integrated with Android Automotive, so it's like using your tablet or mobile phone with Android and Google Assistant that you might have at home. And honestly, that's exactly the kind of infotainment that I want. I don't want to have to learn how the manufacturer and his team thought it up in every car. I just want to use it intuitively straight away. Now, I can't help but mention Skoda and Volkswagen here. There you can see how they overslept, how long it takes to get an update, which doesn't bring up anything substantial anyway. So for example, a lot of people got really frustrated and ran out of patience with Enyaq, and they sold their car rather than keep waiting for the promised upgrade and the promised features to come online. So maybe let's keep our fingers crossed for them. Maybe they'll figure this EV thing out yet. Now the XC40's display is framed in glossy black ultralight plastic, which I personally don't like very much, but manufacturers love it because it looks good in photos and it's cheap. They don't really care how it's going to look after you've been using it for a while, because you already paid for the car. And finally, if you're still with me, thank you for being here by the way, we get to the place where a lot of purchasing decisions get made. That is of course pricing. So in the UK, you can get the Volvo EX30 single motor extended range for £38,545 in the basic plus trim. The core is unfortunately not offered in the UK. And the XC40 Recharge single motor in the plus trim will cost you £51,004. So wow, that's a pretty amazing difference of £12,459. You could get half an MG4 SE for that. I understand the XC40 is a bit bigger, it has a bigger boot, it does have that driver display, but friends, is it worth the extra cost? Let me know what you think in the comments. Does the bigger XC40 Recharge even stand a chance against the smaller EX30? My dear tech heads, if you've made it to the end with me, thank you for sticking around. If you like my work, you can support me with a super thanks below the video. I really appreciate your encouragement. Now, we will soon reach 1,000 subscribers together, and I'm very grateful to you all for being here. I think we're a great group, and I love reading all your comments. Honestly, I often learn more from them than I could find out on my own. So as always, I'd love it if you leave me some. Have an excellent day, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video and in the comments section. Thank you for watching, and I'll catch you next time.